Good afternoon, and welcome to OMB-CD's annual 2025 Annual Action Plan Public Meeting. Today is October 23rd. Today you're going to hear from myself. My name is Kelly Russell. I'm the Assistant Director for the department. You'll also hear from one of our program coordinators, AJ Stevens, and you'll also hear from our friends at Strategy Solutions, Inc. For today's agenda, we're going to discuss the budget process. We're going to provide details on the 4 grants our department oversees. We're going to talk about the CDBG items in the 2025 capital budget, and then we're going to turn the presentation over to our friends at Strategy Solutions, Inc., SSI, so they can do the community input. So let's talk about the budget process. In April, the mayor provides his priorities to OMB and various city departments. In May, the RFPs go out to all the city departments. In May and June, OMB wants to hear from the public. Come July, the city departments must submit their proposals back to OMB. In August and September, the Capital Program Facilitation Committee, the CPFC, meets with city departments and scores those proposals. In September, the mayor releases the initial budget. And in October, OMB gets feedback and makes adjustments. In November and December, the budget is turned over to City Council where they can make revisions as they see fit, and the budget must be adopted by December 31st.
We do just want to point out that this is the only public meeting that we're having about the 2025 budget, and we are here specifically to discuss CDBG within that budget, the federal fund uses specifically. If you'd like to look at the whole budget, you can go to the Engage page for City of Pittsburgh budget engagements, and this link will be emailed to all of our registrants after the meeting. On this Engage page, you can find budget simulations, which you can sort of work with, add comments on projects, and you can submit your own version of the budget for the capital team to look through. And you can also do the same with the operating budget.
Thank you, AJ. All right, let's talk about community development. Our department receives funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD. There are 4 grants that our department oversees. The Home Investment Partnership, that grant is managed by the Urban Redevelopment Authority, the URA, and that helps low to moderate income individuals with housing. There's the Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, HOPWA. That grant is managed by the Jewish Healthcare Foundation, and its intent is to do exactly as it says. It helps those with HIV and AIDS find housing. There's the Emergency Solutions Grant, ESG. That helps focus on those who are homeless or at risk of being homeless, or at risk of being homeless. We co-run that program with Allegheny County Department of Human Services. And last but not least, there's the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, which benefits low to moderate income city residents. So let's talk about CDBG in the budget. I can't flip my page here. The CPFC, the Capital Program Facilitation Committee, determines which activities should be funded. Our department reviews anything funded with CDBG funds for eligibility. CDBG funds are used by various departments, which we will see momentarily. And as AJ said, please remember we are taking comments on the initial budget. And you can also do that through Engage PGH as well. So let's talk about the CDBG items in the capital budget. There's affordable housing, vacant building remediation and demolition, administration and personnel, senior programming, neighborhood economic development grants known as NED, public service grants to nonprofits, PSG, which people might be familiar with, workforce development, the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank, funds for housing counseling, and fair housing. And let's take a breakdown of the whole entire CD funds in the budget. As you can see, there's a little over $5.1 million for the Bedford Dwelling Choice Neighborhood activity that's going to the URA. There's an additional $600,000 for affordable housing development that's also going to the URA. A little over $2.5 million, which will go for the remediation and demolition of condemned buildings, that goes to permits, licenses, and inspections, PLI. A little over $1.3 million for administration and personnel for our department. $1 million for senior community programming that goes to parks and recs for the healthy active living centers. $720,000 for the neighborhood economic development grants, the NED program that our department will run. a combined total of $550,000 for public service grants to nonprofits. $450,000 will come from City Council and $100,000 will come from the Mayor's office. There's $320,000 for the Pittsburgh Employment Program. That's for job development and employment services that goes to Human Resources. Also $210,000 for the Neighborhood Employment Centers that goes to the 6 NECs in various parts of the city that will also go to HR. $200,000 for the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank through City Council. $100,000 for housing counseling for the Urban Leagues program. And last but not least, a little over $94,000 for fair housing promotion that goes to the Commission on Human Relations. At this time, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Chuck Scalise, our friends from Strategy Solutions, Inc., and then we'll take care of the community input.
And
Chuck?
Janine.
Well, great. Well,
And Janine. I'm sorry, and Janine.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today to help facilitate and invite community comments. With me is my colleague, Janine McCreary, also from Strategy Solutions, where we are tenured professionals in community development over the years. We have done a number of our own personal projects, but also happy to be here as a guest of the City of Pittsburgh to engage folks. So I'd like to just open it up to anybody who's here in the audience. We have two members here who are in the audience who may want to just be able to provide some input on community comments, if there's anybody. If not, we will then turn it over to our audience who's with us on Zoom. I'm seeing over 32 participants, which is, I think, our best attendance to date, which is very exciting. So all you need to do is raise your hand. I do see that Kent Bay has raised his hand, and Allison Hannon is also. So we'll ask Kent to share with us any comments or concerns. And Kent, your microphone's been muted, so you should be able to go.
Peace. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Can you hear me okay, mister?
We can hear you just
Charles,
fine. Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity. Speak here at this particular hearing. My name is Kent Bay, military veteran, founder of the Project Love Coalition organization, which advocates on behalf of veterans and their families in the areas of housing, workforce development, and community building. We currently operate an urban farm in the city of Pittsburgh, neighborhood Hill District, Middle Hill District, Peace and Friendship Farm, where we invite all people to come out and learn how to grow healthy organic fruits and vegetables and to make new friends and create peaceful conditions in our city here. The Project Love Coalition has applied numerous times for the public service grant. We've been denied through the Community Development Block Grant, as well as the Neighborhood Economic Development grant opportunity. And in the past, we've been approved, but as of lately, we have not been approved for any of this funding here. And I'm wondering why we have not been approved, especially when we have stood up to assist the city in solving some of the especially as it relates to workforce development and homelessness with veterans. So we've been at this with the city and trying to get housing and access some of these funds to be able to do this housing, provide this housing for those in need since 2018. We have not been able to get any traction. We don't see any of this funding being earmarked for Project Love Coalition or organizations like us, as well as veterans that we serve and their families. We're just wondering where are the funds and how can we get access to continue the work that we have been getting funds for in the past, but we have not been getting any funds lately. So we know that we have recently had a problem here in the city of Pittsburgh with a gentleman by the name of William Hardison, who was killed last year because he peacefully refused to accept a eviction notice, a piece of paper, and he had no place to go. So we're talking about how providing homes to people, but yet we could not provide a home to this man. And if Project Love Coalition would have been receiving the assistance from the city, the local government. We could have assisted with keeping this man alive for so that he could continue to live an honest life. So we wonder, how can we get access to these funds, and what help can we get to prepare ourselves to be in line for these funds that should be earmarked for us as veterans, as Moorish Americans, like other ethnic groups of people. What can we do to get access to these funds?
Thank you very much for the question. Mr. Kelly, do you want to respond, or do you want to?
I can take some of that question. Ken, in terms of when it comes to applications through the public service grant, even neighborhood economic development, well, let me focus on public service grant first. All our office does, as was mentioned in the presentation, we review applications for eligibility. If an application is determined eligible, it is passed on to the city council and the mayor's office. They are the ones who make funding decisions for the public service grant. In terms of NED, there is a NED committee. They also review applications and determine which organizations are invited to present to the full NED committee. If an application is deemed ineligible, the application will not be invited to present to the NED committee. If an organization is allowed to present to the NED committee, is allowed to present to the NED committee, if they are funded, or if funding is suggested for them, once again, those recommendations still have to pass through city council, but it's just a question of maybe your application was deemed ineligible and never made it onto the second phase, whether that was through public service grants or for the neighborhood economic development grants. And what we can do is we can also follow up to take a look and see what has happened with your application since 2018.
Thank you. Our next guest speaker is going to be Allison Hannon.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you just fine, Allison. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Allison Hannon. I'm from Pittsburgh Musical Theater in the West End. First, I wanted to thank you for sharing the information about this meeting today and inviting community input. And the next thing that I wanted to say is that we are very grateful for the funding we've received through the PSG program. Every year, this funding provides need-based financial aid for underserved students to participate in our out-of-school time creative learning programs. And each year, we've been able to increase our service to this population, thanks in part to this grant. It truly does make a difference for these students and their families. And they tell us every day how much they appreciate the ability to participate in our programs. So I wanted to say thank you again for the recommended funding in the budget. It's really meaningful for the youth that come to our programs. I also appreciate the information that you provided to the previous commenter, Mr. Russell, about the NED funding process. We did apply for the NED funding as well this year, focusing on our overall activities and economic impact in the West End. And we just didn't receive any communication about the status of our application until, we found out that we didn't receive the funding. So when you mentioned to the previous commenter, I was just curious if you would be able to share, at a later time, if we were ineligible to go to the presentation stage or if we were just not selected to go to the presentation stage. And to add on to that, we would welcome the opportunity at any time to have members of OMB or the NED committee or others to come check out our programming, see our students in action, whether it's in the classroom or on the stage, and see, the work that we're doing related to, not only the education programs, but the economic activity that we're generating here in the West End. So I just wanted to add that as well.
Nope, that's fine, Allison. And what I can say is we haven't notified anybody directly about the NED funding yet. We're actually just recently submitted legislation, and we're waiting for that to go through, and then we're going to notify everybody. So if you want to yell at anybody about not knowing, I'll take the blame for that.
No, and that's not my intention to yell at you. I was just curious because, last year we had submitted an application in collaboration with a CDC, and we were invited to the proposal stage, and or not the presentation stage, I'm sorry. And this year we were not invited to the presentation stage, and I just, wasn't sure if the process was delayed or if,
No.
I just hadn't heard anything either way. So totally appreciate that, and just looking to better understand for future participation in the process if what we submitted was ineligible or just not selected.
Was that last part, was that a question or a statement? I'm sorry.
No, and I think that if you're going to be following up with all the applicants, then maybe at that time that will be communicated. I just heard that that information provided to the previous commenter, so that's why I kind of wanted to ask as well. But again, we appreciate the support we received through PSG, and thank you to the work that the city and the staff are doing, because I know that it is a very large process, but it makes a difference for a lot of people, including our students. So thank you for that.
No, you're fine. And just hold on for 1 sec. I'll just say this. When we send out the notifications, we always tell people to contact us to follow up, and then we can give you some individualized attention and focus on what exactly happened with your application and why it was necessarily deemed ineligible, and go from there.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Russell.
And don't please call me Kelly. Mr. Russell's my grandfather, but thank you.
Well, thank you, Kelly. I really appreciate it.
I may have started that tradition
No,
here,
it's all right.
so forgive me. So I see a hand raised by Rhonda. Rhonda Strozer. You've been unmuted, so thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. I am Rhonda Strozer, the Executive Director of Perry Hilltop Citizens Council and View Citizens Council as well. So we are two separate community groups that work in collaboration with each other and share staff. As other commenters were saying, we have received NED funds in the past, and so I'm really thankful for the program and that it continues. My question is more so in regards to the demolition budget. I don't know if you can go back to show that budget. So are we seeing an increase in the amount for demolition? Perry Hilltop specifically has a lot of blighted properties that need to be demolished. And then do you know how many approximately houses that covers to be demolished over the city, that amount of money?
I don't know the exact number just yet. There's a whole process, even with demolitions and the use of CD funds, that's called an environmental review process that must be done. PLI will submit properties to our department for reviewing for demolition. Once that whole ER process done, that is a behind the scenes process that takes about 30 to 45 days for actually to get done before work can actually even begin. To also add on to that, AJ did tell me it's an increase of funding from 24 to 25 for PLI's demolition as well. And mind you, this is just CD funding. PLI also does receive other funds for demolition in the 25 capital budget as well.
Okay, so are we expecting that more structures will be demolished in 2025?
Well, that was the answer I was saying. I can't really give an exact answer on that one. That's why I was talking about the whole, we have to wait for them to submit properties so they can go through the environmental review process. That's why I said all that. I probably didn't do a great job explaining how that related to your answer. So I cannot give a direct answer on that right now.
Okay, will there be any additional meetings, maybe specifically with PLI, to learn more about that process?
From our perspective, or you mean for the public to meet with PLI to learn about the demolition process?
For the public.
There is really, as AJ talked about, no public engagement for the capital budget this year. And even with this meeting, this was really to specifically focus on the CDBG items within the capital budget. And AJ wants to add something too.
I would recommend just going to PLI's website if they have projects listed, and then they'll probably link to their Engage Pittsburgh page. So that's engage.pittsburghpa.gov. And individualized projects might have pages on there, but they will have probably a generalized email that you can ask them directly what their specific plans are. That they will be able to answer much more in depth than we can, since we're just checking that they're spending the money appropriately rather than what properties are being demolished and things like that.
And I'll just lastly add, while PLI has been in touch with our department, they're going through the planning stages and preparing properties to be demoed so they can submit those, I shouldn't say preparing properties to be demoed. Eventually that will happen, but they're in the process of preparing paperwork for our environmental review process. So we've actually had these conversations over the past few weeks. They're actually wondering about the funding so they can start to use some of those funds as well. But unfortunately, cannot give you a direct answer. Sorry, shut up, Kelly. Go ahead, ma'am.
That's all right. That's all right. One more follow-up question. You all were mentioning that this is the only public meeting. I believe there was a lot more public engagement last year. Is there a specific reason that there is just only one public-facing meeting this year?
Yes. So essentially, last year was an experimental version of fall budget engagement. And especially with the decrease in funds available to the city, the administration is really focusing on the most urgent safety needs in the budget. And so it sort of came about that the capital budget team and the mayor's administration decided that the virtual engagement would be sufficient for their needs, given all of the engagement that was done in the spring to hear from residents then.
All right. Thank you all.
All right. Thank all of you. At this time, we are going to acknowledge our audience. If we have any members in the audience that would like to offer questions or comments, would you please come forward?
My name is Rick Swartz. I work for the Bloomfield Garfield Corporation. I want to give some positive comments about the CDBG budget. 15 years ago, the city was still using CDBG funds to buy fire trucks and police vehicles and do street repaving in CDBG eligible neighborhoods. And we tried to flag those kinds of expenditures and get the administration to stop using federal funds to do work that really was the responsibility of the municipality to address. So this budget looks very devoid of those kinds of, for lack of a better word, substitution of funds. We see a bump up in the amount of money allocated for the Neighborhood Economic Development Program, which I think is terrific because it's a way to engage communities in planning and executing change strategies on their own. The one comment or question I have is, I know a lot of money is still getting allocated for demolition. I'd be interested to have the administration share with the public what monies have been spent down from last year's allocation. We are seeing kind of a dearth of demolition activity in our community. It's not like we're advocating for houses to be torn down routinely. We would like to try to salvage them whenever possible, but there are some city-owned properties now that are approaching the point where they won't be salvaged. There's a demolition placard, for example, on a house at 5137 Broad Street. I think that demolition placard has been up there for the better part of a year. So although Kelly, you said the processes should be done within a matter of a few months.
That's the ER process, but that's not the actual demo, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Shut up, Kelly. Go ahead.
So I think it might be advisable at some point for the administration to have a public hearing just on the city's demolition program, because we hear through the grapevine that they're having a hard time finding contractors who are bondable or insurable. So if that is a major issue, maybe there's some kind of public attention that needs to be focused on that issue. Because these properties, the one at 5137 Broad Street, they can very easily become places where squatters will move into. And as winter approaches, they'll find ways to try to keep themselves warm in the house, which raises the risk of a fire. So in the interest of the adjoining property owners and making sure that their welfare is not threatened by the long delays that we're seeing in DPLI's demolition program, I think it'd be great if the mayor's administration could take some time and just look at the demolition program overall, see how many houses are getting torn down, see how many contractors are engaged now, and then I think maybe report to the public or allow the public to have a hearing where we can talk about how well the program is operating in our own community. One last comment. The Urban Redevelopment Authority does benefit from an allocation of funds through the Housing Opportunity Fund. The 0.5% deed transfer tax increment is funding that. But for those of us in the housing development field, we foresee a time, probably within the next 18 to 24 months, where the URA's funding prospects are going to tighten considerably. This is after they have spent down the bond revenue that the city approved last year. They're going through that revenue fairly steadily. And where they're going to be lacking, we think, is in the whole home ownership development arena. Many neighborhoods now want to see for sale houses built in their community, preferably ones that are affordable. The CDBG program in years past was used by the URA for what we call deferred payment second mortgage loans. And those loans basically take the sales price of the house and drop the amount that the buyer has to finance through conventional sources. We're using URA funds now in Garfield to build 3 new homes on Hillcrest Street. Each of those homes are going to have an allocation of second mortgage loan monies. It's too late to do this for the 2025 budget, but I think for 2026, it would be worth talking with the URA executive director and with the board chair, Kyle Chintolopoli, and really kind of figure out how we can fill this funding gap moving forward from 2026 on. Because if we don't, you'll have money through the Housing Opportunity Fund to reduce the construction cost on projects, but you won't be able to sell the homes to people at 80% or less of median income, which is a condition of almost all URA programs today, unless you've got the second mortgage loan money. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have anyone else in our audience who would like to offer a comment or have any questions? Thank you.
All right,
Chuck, you
hearing
can
none, we'll
continue.
turn it back over to our Zoom users. I'm going to call on Mark Stansberry, and forgive me if I have pronounced your name incorrectly, and please correct me.
No, you said it correctly. Thank you, sir. I was just wondering about the senior services, the senior programming under the Parks and Recreation. Has that amount increased or has it remained the same? And I have a follow-up too.
That amount increased last year and has,
It's $1 million again.
yeah, it has maintained steady from last year to this year.
Okay, and so for senior programming, when are you planning to have an RFP out for the public consumption?
So that portion of the budget, it's going directly to the Department of Parks and Recreation for the programs that they currently run at the Healthy Active Living Centers. So that's not
Okay.
a service that we're looking to find new providers for. That is a service that the Department of Parks and Recreation currently provides.
Okay, so just that I understand, you're not looking for new providers under that funding stream.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We'll now call upon Stephen O'Brien to speak. Stephen, your mic will be unmuted in just a second. Stephen, is your mic unmuted, perhaps? All right, there we are.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you just fine. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Stephen O'Brien. I'm the Advocacy Coordinator with the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank and a resident of downtown Pittsburgh. Thank you for the opportunity to speak as part of today's hearing. I apologize that I could not join you there in person, but am pleased and thankful to be joining you virtually. I'm here today to share a couple of comments in support of the use of community development block grant funds for the hunger services line item in the proposed 2025 capital budget. As this group has heard from me before, food insecurity rates in our region and across the country continue to rise. According to Feeding America's Map the Meal Gap report, 1 in 7 residents in the city of Pittsburgh are currently experiencing food insecurity. Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank and our partner network works tirelessly to help our neighbors in need put food on the table, and those CDBG funds play a critical role in this fight. As I know this group is well aware, CDBG funds allocated to the food bank are distributed to eligible partners for food purchases, meaning 100% of the funds are used to support food for the community, and the food bank provides all administration and distribution in kind. This maximizes the ability for community pantries to keep their shelves stocked and ultimately to provide more nutritious food for our neighbors. As food insecurity continues to rise, the impact of this investment could not be more vital for agencies across the city that rely on it. In Program 2022, the most up-to-date full-year data available, City of Pittsburgh CDBG funds, supported 60 eligible partner agencies across all 9 council districts with the purchase of 207,000 pounds of food, like I said, that were distributed at no cost to our most vulnerable neighbors. This is a small but critical portion of the food distributed, and I look forward to sharing Program Year 23 statistics with this group once they become available. And just in conclusion, I recognize, and the food bank certainly recognizes, that funds are limited and there will be hard decisions to be made. However, we urge you to retain this proposed investment and, if possible, increase this pot as food insecurity remains prevalent in our neighborhoods. Certainly appreciate all of the work that this group does, that the CDB team does. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your comments. Everything's been entered into our record, and appreciate the data that you provided then. So our next speaker we see is Nikki Fegan, and forgive me if I've mispronounced your name, and please correct me.
Hi, it's Nikki Fagan, thank you. I am the grants manager for the Citizen Science Lab. Just wanted to give a huge thank you for our CDBG grants. We just sent over some great pictures of the kids in the camp, and could not have had such a successful program had it not been for your support. I'm also going to do a plug. We are close to closing in on the old MLK Center and Cultural Center, and so we do have a NED grant request in for lighting to help do that. So I just wanted to do that push and to invite you all to our upcoming groundbreaking. So we'll be sending out that information as well.
Well, thank you. Appreciate the positive comments. Our next speaker is Maria Maria Mangaluzo. And please correct me, because I think I didn't do a great job.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, it's Maria Mangaluzo, but that is no problem at all. I've heard it many ways before, so please don't feel bad. I am here today from Jubilee. I'm the Director of Development at Jubilee Kitchen, and I'm following up from what Stephen O'Brien from the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank just shared with you. I'm just here to stress that the line item and budget item for hunger services in the proposed budget is very important. We are a close working partner of the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank, and I just wanted to share a little bit of information of the increase in hunger services and food insecurity that we are experiencing at Jubilee Food Kitchen with you today. I will not repeat some of the statistics that Stephen did share, but you do know that food insecurity is increasing in the city of Pittsburgh, and we are seeing that every day at Jubilee Kitchen. We're serving on average about 127 meals every single day through our soup kitchen right now, and those are primarily to individuals who are experiencing homelessness, who are lacking stable housing in the city, or who are just living in poverty and need an extra helping hand. Our Polish Hill Food Pantry, which Jubilee also runs, serves on average about 100 walk-in households every month, and we deliver to another 117 households each month for individuals who are unable to travel to our food pantry. We are preparing to reopen our food district food pantry early next year, and we expect to be serving even more households through that as the need continues to increase. Over the past couple months, we've also established a mobile food pantry that we're now using to serve 20 families at a local public school, and we're also looking to install food lockers to help improve access and convenience to food and for those who are experiencing food insecurity in the future. So I just wanted to stress, and again, thank you for the time today. I know that funds are limited and that there are decisions to make of how to allocate them in this budget, but please, I do urge you to retain the proposed investment for the $200,000 for the hunger services in the 2025 capital budget. I'm happy to answer any questions or discuss anything further, but thank you again very much for letting me share my comments today.
Well, we appreciate the additional data and thank you for your comments. Ladies and gentlemen who might be joining us by Zoom, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a raised hand button next to the green share button. If you'd like to share some thoughts, you're certainly welcome to do so by simply clicking on the raise hand button, and we'll be pleased to recognize you and give you a chance to opportunity to chat. Again, we're looking for input on this year's budget presentation, but I'm also interested, of course, in if there's observations for future planning. The gentleman in the audience gave us some ideas on what 2 years from now might look like in terms of home ownership projects here in the city of Pittsburgh. But if there's other forecasting information that we ought to know, that so that the team here at the city can consider for future years, we're very welcome. So we have Rhonda back with us. So Rhonda, you should be unmuted and you should be able to share your thoughts.
Okay, I am back. Rhonda from Perry Hilltop and 5U Citizens Council again. So I believe we've all heard that, with the absence of all of the COVID funding that was coming into the budget, we are, low right now. Do we have any expectations on how we are going to build the budget back up in the future?
But that's a crystal ball question.
This presentation is not for that. I'm sorry, Rhonda. I understand with the COVID funding and the capital budget as a whole and the shortfalls that the city, among other areas, are experiencing right now. But just to really tie back to this is really for just the CDBG line items within the capital budget. In terms of your question, as AJ has mentioned before, would tell you to go to the Engage PGH page that she's bringing up here and ask those type of questions. We're just here to talk about the CD funds. I'm not I'm not ducking or dodging your question, but that's not for us.
Appreciate you, Kelly. That's all right.
No problem.
Thank you. And Mark Stansberry has also raised his hand in the back with some additional comments. Mark.
Thank you, Charles. Just briefly, and it might not be appropriate for this meeting, but just so that I understand, if it's not, if you can just direct me to the right area. I was looking for the master plan for funding of the Sheridan Park. Is that not the CDBG?
You broke up, but you said the funding for Sheridan Park?
Yes. Is that part of the community block grant development, CDBG?
There are no, the only Parks and Recs funds are for the senior community programming. There is no funding right now in the 25 capital budget for CD for Sheridan Park. If you want to look at that, that might be kind of going on with Rhonda's question. You might want to look at the full capital budget as a whole, but there are no CD funds for Sheridan Park, sir.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. Will be joined shortly by Jamie Christian. And Jamie has left us, or there's Jamie again.
Hi, sorry about that.
That's quite all right. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Amy Marie Christian. I'm the founder and executive director of an organization called Let Us Turn Up the Beat Sustainability Collective, and we are based in Carrick. And I just wanted to share my support, my story about the work that we have done with the food bank in the past during the pandemic. They were one of our community partners, through our community outreach program. We distributed over 90,000 pounds of food throughout southwestern Pennsylvania, including much of the city of Pittsburgh, including Beachview, Brookline, Dormont, Carrick, the West End. And we will be partnering with them again this coming year, in addition to Love Carrick and the amazing work that Charlene has been able to do in Beachview and Mount Washington with them. So we're kind of filling in the gaps. So essentially, like, partnering with them is enabling us to pretty much wipe out, any food insecure, or help any food insecure folks who may have been missed. So we're really happy to partner with them on that, and we definitely support the funds go to them as well. But I had a question about the workforce development. Will the funding be used for any type of grants or contracts to create new industry within the city of Pittsburgh? Because that's one thing that we're definitely lacking.
All right, so the workforce development funds, as you can see on the slide, there's $320,000 that's going for the Pittsburgh employment program, and then there's $210,000 for there's 6 neighborhood employment centers throughout various parts of the city. I wanted to go back to your question because there was a part that you said that I missed in regards to, is the funding going for?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see this slide. I saw the other one where it just said workforce development. My question came up after. I just wanted to make my statement about the food bank. But I was wondering if any of the workforce development money would be going towards like contracts or grants for organizations creating, working on projects that would be like creating new industry within the city of Pittsburgh.
Oh, creating new industry.
The slide.
Okay. No, actually, even with these funds right here, these funds are actually helping to cover salary. So unfortunately, none of the funds would go directly to the programs that you spoke of, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. So I see no one in the queue just yet. And again, if you'd like to join us and share some comments, simply go to the bottom of your screen, find the raise hand icon, click on it, and we'll be happy to recognize you. Jim Jackson has raised his hand and will be recognized. Welcome, Jim. Let's see, Jim's still muted.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to acknowledge in a very positive sense the work that AJ has done with Pittsburgh Community Services Incorporated. You've had a struggle over the last couple of years with funding.
Thank you, Jim. We love AJ.
Thanks, Jim.
She's a joy.
Thank you, Jim.
And also, I just want to say, while we are concerned, as our partners are at the food bank and others, with hunger as a concern for the community, particularly food shortages and insecurity, we're also concerned about nutrition and nutritional values, increasing those values by helping people purchase foods correctly, prepare foods correctly, and move forward with an understanding of what food does to the body. We often think of food as medicine for the body. We want people to understand the impact that food has on the body. So that's the concentration that we have that hopefully we'll be able to press into 2025.
Okay, thank you. I see Jim has raised his hand again. Not sure if we're coming back. Okay, very good. Sometimes the internet squirrels are a little slow, so forgive me if I'm not following. Again, if you'd like to join us and just share your thoughts, comments, praise. We'll certainly take the praise. Again, by just going to the bottom of your screen, looking for the raise hand icon, clicking on it, and we'll be happy to recognize you. And we'll just pause for a moment. Any other comments? Oh, I see. Okay, we have Kent Bay back to us then. Kent?
Yes, thank you. I wasn't quite sure if the part of my commentary was acknowledged, but I was looking to see where the funds will be allocated for veterans and their families, especially those that are homeless and dealing with food insecurity, as well as Moorish Americans.
Yeah, so we have not officially notified the, those are public service grant allocations. We have not officially notified who's receiving the 2024 public service grant, but projects like that would fall under public service grants to nonprofits as far as our funding is concerned.
So, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Ken. Appreciate that. Next, we have Jessica Gilmore. Jessica, you should be unmuted in just a second here.
Thank you so much. And it's actually good timing. I am with Veterans Place Washington Boulevard. So we house 52 homeless veterans on site. And I actually raised my hand to give you guys some praise to the city of Pittsburgh and the URA, as we will be unveiling a new facility that used to be blighted properties. So we will be increasing our capacity to serve homeless veterans through transitional housing. So we'll have an additional 8 single occupancy apartments and a wellness center. So I just wanted to thank you all for that opportunity to increase our capacity there.
Well, thank you for your comments and congratulations. You know, keep up the good work. And this is a message to all of us in community development. It takes a village. So we have a few more moments left in our day this afternoon. So again, if you'd like to join, share some comments, you're certainly welcome to do so by clicking on the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen.
Hello, Nikki. I just wanted to let you know I had to go into a report we have to submit to HUD that's called our CAPER in terms of demolished buildings. For our 2022 funds, the 2022 CD funds that covered April 1st of 2022 through September 30th of 2023, CD funds were used to demolish 610 properties. Or buildings, or it's classified as buildings, but the number was 610, just to help you out. And AJ just mentioned that was potentially done with $1.7 million.
That's just from memory, though, so I might be wrong.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. We still have a few moments. Again, if you'd like to join us.
Nikki, I think I meant Rhonda. I meant Rhonda. I think I said Nikki and I meant Rhonda. Sorry.
Thanks, Kelly. Appreciate the clarification on that. So. Is there anything else for this afternoon before we start drawing to a close? Again, we have a few moments left, but if not, we would like to thank everyone for their participation. Appreciate it. Again, this is a great turnout. We had over 33 attendees this afternoon, so we appreciate that. Janine, did you want to add anything for closing remarks?
Thank you, Chuck. Yes. So again, I am Janine McCreary, and on behalf of Strategy Solutions, I would like to thank our Pittsburgh audience, both virtual and live, for allowing Chuck and I to engage you during this community input process. Your input is and will always be very valuable, and it will enhance the CDBG grant process for now and in the future. And our best to all current grant applicants and recipients, and we hope to continue this process next year.
With that, we'll close and turn it back over to Kelly.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for your time today. That's the most important thing that you can give us. We appreciate the comments and questions. I was hoping you had the community.development email too, but if there are any additional questions, you can also contact us at ombOutreach@pittsburghpa.gov. And thank you everyone again for your time and your efforts today.